Lazarbeam's game has nothing left. All right, let's see what's going on here.
Lazarbeam's game has nothing left. On paper, it looked like World Boss could have been a massive success since you had two of the biggest Fortnite YouTubers getting together to make a game that some were even calling the Fortnite killer. But if you look at the state of the game right now, World Boss is a full-on display of how subscriber count doesn't matter. The amount of influence you have online doesn't matter. You can promote something to millions of viewers and still get to watch it crash and burn. And for the longest time, we sort of had this illusion that views and subscribers automatically equaled success. That if you had an audience and you're bringing enough hype, you could make just about anything work. But
Oh my goodness, the lunch tea is, yeah, no, the lunch tea is a great example of that. I was thinking also of Prime. I just did a video where I spoke about how Prime like had its first year of sales, which was amazing and it was phenomenal and everyone was buying the drink and everyone loved it. And then all of a sudden people just didn't buy it anymore because first of all, I don't think the product was very good. And I think the sales reflected that. But also the whole company was just built on hype. So, you know, like beyond the hype, there was actually nothing good going on there in the company. The promotion was kind of weird after a while and we all got used to it. Like Logan Paul was just walking around with a Prime all the time. Like, all right, cool, we get it. And it just like completely lost it. And between, I think it was 2023 and 2024, their revenue got cut by 50%. So this is true. Like those were some, forget Fortnite YouTubers. These were just two of the biggest YouTubers in the world making a product, and it more or less crashed. So, I mean, not completely. They still got made millions, but you know, still, you need to actually have a really good product, and the promotion is only good for a year, maybe.
Boss itself is a pretty grim reminder that number one, game development is a completely different beast when compared to something like selling merch or selling energy drinks, you know? Figuring out what the winning formula is for a live service game is extremely difficult. And number two, YouTuber hype just isn't enough. It can get people into the door because I'm sure a lot of you guys have at least heard of World Boss, but if the game isn't built to last, if it doesn't have the headroom to keep growing as a live service experience, then people are gonna forget about it and move on pretty quickly. So World Boss is the perfect example of hindsight being 2020 because maybe Lazarbeam and Fresh couldn't see it at the time, maybe the people over at Playside Studios couldn't see it either, but anybody that looks at the game now can see that from day one, World Boss was a ticking time bomb that actually went off pretty quickly. And I'm not saying this to try to put Lazarbeam on the spot, I'm not trying to grill him for taking a risk and putting something out there for people to enjoy, because I don't think that this was your typical case of a YouTuber product that was just made to be a shill or a cash grab, you know? I know a lot of people like to call World Boss a cash grab, that Lazarbeam and Fresh were just collecting a fat check to promote the game because of how the early access and the monetization was handled at first. It did feel kind of weird at the time, I will admit, and
I don't know. I mean, I never heard too much controversy about that, to be honest, so I can't really speak to that. But also, I do think Lazarbeam's a great guy. Like, I watch a lot of Sidemen videos with him on there, and he's really funny. He plays Among Us, even though I don't really watch Among Us anymore. But he'll play like with the Sidemen, play Among Us on Sundays or whatever. So that's really cool. And also, like, I liked his OG Fortnite stuff. I really enjoyed him playing that kind of, you know, those games. The one where he won the game by landing in the tree and not even moving was insane. That was a great video. I love that. And yeah, no, he's just funny. He's in like charity matches. He kind of does videos with people I like to watch. I never watch him that directly anymore because I'm not into Fortnite. But whenever he's on, I find him really, really cool. So I can't actually say anything too bad about Lazarbeam, but unfortunately, I haven't heard of the other guy, Fresh, or whatever his name is, but I'm sure it's great as well. But yeah, they don't strike me as the kind of people to be going for a cash grab, you know? So I can kind of respect the game. And also from the gameplay we've just seen now in the video, it doesn't look too bad. I mean, you know, it doesn't look insane in terms of like, wow, the graphics are amazing or the gameplay loop looks insane, but you know, it's not. I don't think it's a scam. It reminds me of Pixel Guns 3D, funny enough, like the mobile game, and you know, people love that. There was a big following behind that, so I understand why people can get behind that one if they wanted to. But I want to hear what went wrong. Let's see what happened.
We'll get into that, but I'm pretty sure that overall, Lazarbeam and Fresh at least had good intentions when they wanted to partner up and release World Boss. It's just that so many things went wrong with the game from the get-go that it was just a disaster waiting to happen. So the last time I actually got the chance to play and talked about this game was about 1 year ago, and I mainly covered all the core issues of the game itself and what drove the players away. But recently, since we saw that Midnight Society was shut down, which was Dr. Disrespect's game studio that was working on the vertical extraction shooter Dead Drop, and we also saw another popular streamer, Shroud, recently partner up with Mountaintop Studios to release the tactical shooter Spectre Divide. Well, I wanted to go back and check on how World Boss was doing, what sort of updates have they done, and see if there's anything left for a potential comeback. But just for quick context, if you've never heard about World Boss before, World Boss was a casual arena shooter that was made by Lazarbeam and Fresh, and the core gameplay was super simple. You know, you just jump into a lobby, you get kills to level up, and as you level up, you unlock different weapons and perks to build out your character, and the whole goal of the game was to climb the in-game leaderboard so that way you could become the lobby's world boss. And once you got the world boss status, you got a massive HP buff out of it, you got a crown that basically puts a target on your back for other players to team up against you, and the entire goal for you is to corrupt different sectors of the map to shut down the lobby and basically win the game. So it was a pretty bare bones.
That sounds pretty good. I mean, I'm not gonna lie to you, it's not like insane, but I mean, it follows the same track of like live service games like Overwatch or CS:GO. Oh my goodness, what's the other really popular one that people love? Not Marvel Rivals, but Valorant. Oh my goodness, Valorant. Yes. Okay, so that's what this reminds me of. It's Valorant, all right? So, I mean, people love those games. Those are iconic games. I mean, Overwatch, not so much anymore, but it used to be at the time when it was kind of in its prime, it was amazing. So, you know, I definitely get that the appeal might have been there maybe a few years ago, or, you know, maybe if it just hit right, I don't know, maybe there was something wrong with the launch. It does seem like a simple gameplay loop, but I don't think people care about simplicity. I mean, it's a casual shooter. The word casual is pretty key right there. It just meant hop on, have a few rounds, have fun with the boys, and then kick off. Like, it's what it is. So for what it was advertised to be, I think from just looking at the video clips that we're seeing in this video, I think it looked good. Okay, it's nothing crazy, it's nothing exceptional, it's not a AAA title, it's not GTA 6, but it kind of looks like it is what it's meant to be. So I can get behind it. Why not?
Multiplayer experience that leaned pretty heavily into the IO genre, and if you've played any other type of IO game before, then you know it's basically the same concept. So the gameplay loop was supposed to be fast, casual, and mindless, where you just pop in real quick, play for a few rounds, and then you just quit, you know? It wasn't trying to be some sort of grandiose Fortnite-level adventure with deep lore and world building or anything like that, but at the same time, that also meant that the players didn't really have an incentive to stick around and play World Boss over the long run. Overall, the game really didn't impress anybody when it first came out. World Boss released in a completely unfinished state, and I'm not trying to be mean here, but it was more broken than your typical EA launch. A lot of the features in the main menu and the UI just had placeholder PNGs instead of characters with smooth animations. The servers were super unstable and made the game borderline unplayable a lot of the times because you would get disconnected multiple times per hour, and if you were getting close to that #1 spot on the leaderboard, I gotta say, you know, it was pretty frustrating to get disconnected from the server and lose all of your progress. And before the game's official release, the whole server corruption aspect of the gameplay that acted like a win condition for the world boss wasn't even there to begin with. So what people would do is that they would just grind all the way to the top spot, they would just get the world boss status with the HP buff, and just hog it for as long as possible until they either prestige back to level 1, or they just get bored and leave the game. Because there really wasn't a win condition in early access, so instead of everybody teaming up to take down the world boss, people would just avoid fighting the world boss altogether and just keep fighting amongst themselves to level up. Now all of that is fine and dandy since it was
I mean, that's pretty big flaw in the game. I mean, that makes just the whole gameplay loop kind of pointless. And when you're wasting your time like that with no kind of idea why you're playing the game, then it loses a purpose. Like, you don't feel like it's important to win. You don't feel like it's important when you lose. It's just, again, this mindless thing, which is what he pointed out. But the win condition that they added in seems to be very important. Also, the fact that it was unfinished and that people were getting kicked out of games, like servers were crashing, and it was just like a bad player experience, is probably like it's probably a #1 killer for games, in my opinion. Because I don't think, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think people have too much of an issue of like when they're outskilled in the game. So if you think about like Call of Duty and you play against someone who's like super good and they just keep killing you, you'll get frustrated, you'll get annoyed, or you'll see the Instagram reels where people are like screaming at their monitors, whatever, into their mics and just like having a great time, whatever. Yeah, okay, you get annoyed. I'm with you 100%. But it's not like you stop playing. Like, you might rage quit, but that's only after like 5 more games. Whereas if you just get kicked from the server, the game already crashes or something, then you're like, right, that was unfair. There was no need for that to happen. It's already kicked me out of the game, so I'm not going to bother logging in again. And that just frustrated me on, like, not even a player skill-based difference. That was just the game messed up. So it doesn't even, like... I think it just annoys players in a different way that being outclassed or outskilled or outgunned does, you know, because those being beaten because you're less skillful makes you still want to play more, even though it gets you annoyed. Whereas just being kicked out because like a server error or a game error or like glitching and stuff like that, that's just frustrating to the point where it makes you not want to play anymore. So I actually completely, I think that's really, really dangerous thing to have in your game. If you're going to launch a game, you have to make sure it's airtight. Why did they release it if it was unfinished? That's my big question. Like, were they under time pressure from a management team or something? Maybe, hopefully he goes into it. Let's see.
Just an early access game, you know, although I suppose I can call it more of a glorified beta test than anything else. But what really pissed off the community was how the monetization system was handled, because despite the fact that the game launched in a broken and unfinished state, it had full-on microtransactions on day one. The item shop worked perfectly on release, and shortly after launch, you also got the Fresh and Lazarbeam cosmetic packs too. And you know, to a degree, I get it, because monetization is just an important part for a free-to-play game, but I also think that World Boss released a little too early and with way too many core game issues on day one, to the point where microtransactions right off the gate made it feel more like a cash grab than anything else. And if you thought that the in-game issues were the only—
No, that's a good point. Like, if everything else in your game is broken, but the item shop, which just from the screen, like the little kind of clip we just saw, looks exactly like the Fortnite item shop. I mean, you know, not very creative there, guys. Then I can understand why that might feel a bit rough, you know, especially— I don't know if it was a free or paid game, but either way, if you've downloaded the game, you've sunk time into it, and then everything is kind of broken except the microtransactions, yeah, I get why that would feel annoying. I mean, 100% that would be annoying. So my other thing here is that he said it was like a beta launch or like a pre-release or something like that. Like, basically, it was released, but everyone knew that it was not the finished product, which I think is all right. Okay, that's not unheard of. I actually think sometimes that can go well, but only for specific games. Okay, so the number one game I'm thinking of in this category is Subnautica. Okay, Subnautica had no microtransactions. It was a story game. It was glitchy. It was laggy. It was unfinished. Some bits were unpolished, but the core bit that was there was really, really good. And the potential was so obvious to see because it was such a unique game. I can't think of another game with such a great world setting as Subnautica, okay? But the problem is you had an unfinished game which only had microtransaction, which already leaves a bitter taste in someone's mouth. Okay, that was finished, really. The rest of it being unpolished, like kind of broken, glitchy, annoying. Not only does that hurt when it's like a live service game, and obviously, like we discussed, when you're kicked out of a game for no reason, or you lose a game for no reason, besides just a computer messing up, it feels rough on another level. But also, it's just not unique enough, in my opinion. I mean, I understand they're going for a casual shooter and they're not trying to break new ground, they're not trying to reinvent the wheel. But at the same time, it's not going to afford you everyone's like support going forward, because they could just go and play Marvel Rivals. They can go play Overwatch. They can go and play Valorant, you know, because it's so similar to all of those other games. Subnautica was groundbreaking, and that meant that people wanted to stick around and see the development and pay to have this pre-release game, because they knew and trusted that the developers were going to finish the game and give them a full thing, a very fledged out storyline with a lot of lore, something to get their teeth sunk into, to a completely new world. It was not a spin-off, it was not a remake, a reboot, it was a fresh IP, and people love that. But that doesn't work so well. That same formula doesn't work when the game is just a kind of I don't want to say carbon copy, but it looks very similar to other games that people could just go and play, that are just way more polished, they're less buggy, that are just, you know, don't have issues where you unfairly lose. So I think that's a big downfall. But I definitely see that working for other games, like Subnautica, like I said. But yeah, that's really unfortunate for them. I don't know why they released it so early if it was unfinished.
Thing that were wrong with the world boss, then you're in for a big surprise, because what was happening behind the scenes was also a nightmare situation. Like, for example, one of the faces of the game, Fresh, quit making YouTube videos shortly after World Boss release to try to get into doing cryptocurrency and NFTs. And the only marketing that was done for this game that I could find online, apart from like the main World Boss official channels, was one video on Lazarbeam's channel, one video on Fresh's channel, a collab on Lachlan's channel, and a clip on Logan's release to try to get into doing cryptocurrency in NFTs. And the only marketing that was done for this game that I could find online, apart from like the main World Boss official channels, was one video on Lazarbeam's channel, one video on Fresh's channel, a collab on Lachlan's channel, and a clip on Logan Paul's podcast. That was it. And with World Boss being a Steam-only release with no crossplay enabled, caused it to have one of the worst launches of a free-to-play live service game, and after a few updates here and there that fixed all the problems that I mentioned earlier, Lazarbeam just stopped talking about World Boss entirely, like if it never existed in the first place. I've always had this opinion that World Boss would perform extremely well on a platform that's meant for casual gameplay. Like if it was an experience on Roblox or a Fortnite game mode where the players are already going in with the expectation of playing something that's shallow, but the fact that World Boss released on a dark little corner of the Steam library with no console or mobile release or anything really meant that the game would have next to no organic discovery whatsoever. And every player that downloaded World Boss most likely only did it because they heard about it from Lazarbeam and Fresh, and since they didn't really market the game as hard, that's why the game failed. Now getting back into World...
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. I don't know if I agree with him about the whole thing about it should have been on Fortnite, or on Roblox. Like, I don't think that's what they were trying to go for. I don't think that's what they were trying to build. If they wanted to just make a spin-off within Fortnite or within Roblox, they would have just done that. So I don't think that would have been the strategy. I think a full game release is all right, but you need to have an edge. So, for example, like Overwatch was the first of its kind with those great teams. They were unique heroes. It was from the hero's POV, and it was just like at the time a groundbreaking game because no one had done it like that. Okay, and then you think Marvel Rivals. Okay, it's a third-person shooter. It's a similar sort of theme in terms of like gameplay loop to Overwatch, but it's with great characters. There are so many characters to choose from that you don't just end up replaying the same meta builds the whole time. And you know, people are into it because it's a cool IP. Then you have something like Valorant, which again is same kind of thing where it's like a team versus team shooter. First person perspective, capture the point, plant the bomb, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so it's similar to what we've seen before, but it's so competitive. They made it so competitive with the buying guns, which gun's the best. Your aim has to be on point. And then each different character has like a slight different skill set, which is not always groundbreaking, but it kind of works to freshen it up. You know, the edge of that game is that it's so competitive. They made it so competitive that you had to be so precise, and people are drawn to that because they can sink hours into it and still feel like they're grinding, which people love. People really enjoy it. It makes great videos. I've seen a lot of YouTubers play it because it's just, people are so into it because of the competitive scene. However, if you're going to be doing World Boss things, not promoting it, which is a big deal. I mean, if I made a game with a partner and they promoted it once and then they dipped, I mean, I'd be annoyed, to be honest. Like, I don't think Lazarbeam and Fresh are talking to each other anymore. So, you know, that's a big deal. And then also the fact that I just don't think it stood out. Like, casual game, sure, everyone likes casual game. Everyone can play a casual game now and again. You don't always need to be in the competitive scene, but at least have something that's unique. And I think they did that later on with the World Boss idea and then like shutting down areas of the map. But there was just, it seems to be added too late to actually make a difference, which is a shame.
Boss in 2025, honestly, I was just not expecting at how easy it'd be to just jump in and start having fun with the game. Like, if you just keep in mind that this is a simple IO game and you set your expectations down to that level, it's honestly hard to hate it because the core gameplay is still pretty smooth. It's fast and fun, and there's so many different types of items, abilities, and perks, so there's a lot of variability when it comes to playing the game. And you can either go try hard with a rocket launcher and the Lazarbeam, just like everybody else, or you can mess around with some of the regular weapons, like assault rifles and snipers. So if you go ahead and compare World Boss to Fortnite, well, obviously you're going to be disappointed. But if you compare it to any other Roblox arena shooter, for example, then World Boss is clearly the better game. I gotta say that one of the things that this game does really well is the rush that you feel when you're the World Boss corrupting the sectors, and you have what seems like an endless wave of enemies coming at you. You know, you're trying to not only defend the point to corrupt it, but you're also trying to stay alive. And sure, you know, you might have a crap ton of health, and maybe dealing with one or two enemies isn't a problem, but when the entire lobby is in your face, it can get pretty intense. But at the same time, it sucks really badly when you're leveling up and you have a good build going on, but then suddenly someone else becomes the World Boss, and for some reason, no one in the lobby is trying to stop them from shutting down the sectors, and you just end up losing all of your progress pretty fast. It's pretty clear that the lobbies are running solely on bots, because if you look at the Steam chart, if you look at the concurrent players, obviously those numbers are catastrophic.
Oh my gosh, 8 players right now? 15 in a 24-hour peak, all-time peak 1,300? I mean, oh goodness me, that is pretty terrible. I mean, Okay, look, I can't say too much because I've never made a game and I've never published a game, and I'm sure it's all very difficult, and I have no place to be saying any of this, but that's horrendous. I'm not gonna lie, those numbers are shambles. Like, let's be real about that. It has to be a bot lobby every time you get in there. I mean, you'll be playing against the other 7 dudes in the game plus a bunch of bots, and yeah, I mean, the thing is, like, unless you're the world boss, he's making a good point about the game loop here, where unless you're the world boss, no one actually cares too much about you. And if players do care about you, and then you're the world boss and everyone's fighting each other, then you're having a really boring time. So it doesn't seem like a very nice way, like, it doesn't seem like everyone can have fun in the same lobby at the same time. Either the world boss having a great time because everyone's coming after him, or the players are having a good time because they're going after each other, but the world boss is just by himself doing nothing. So yeah, that might be a slight oversight. I mean, I like the initial idea before I thought about it like that. That's a really good point the video makes. And that might be a flaw. I don't know how you'd solve that one. Maybe by making it like a bonus if you kill the world boss, but I have no idea how you kind of flatten that curve of trying to make everyone have a good time.
And a lot of the times you just see them doing nonsensical behavior inside of the game. And yet for some reason, as soon as you turn into the world boss, it's like they're all laser focused on you. Now, in terms of monetization inside of the game, they clearly made it a lot more player friendly versus early access. I'm assuming because they already knew the game was gonna die anyways, but they removed the battle pass system from the game, and now they have a rotating item shop with a currency that you can get for free just by doing the daily and the weekly quests. So that is a welcome change. You can always just buy the currency, even though I don't think anybody's gonna do that, but the Lazarbeam and fresh packs, you still have to outright buy them. I also went to the Steam page when I was re-downloading the game, and I checked the update history to see what the developers have been up to, what they've been working on, but unfortunately I saw that the last time that the developers sent out an update was in July 26, 2023. Their X account hasn't posted since September 22nd, 2023, and also their support link that's inside of the game just redirects you to a dead website, so it's safe to say that World Boss is just waiting to be put out of its misery at this point. Surprisingly enough, when I jumped into the Discord server, I saw that people are still active there for some reason, but it's mostly people talking about how dead the game is, or they're just proud to show off that they're one of the few people that are still playing the game. So to answer the question whether...
Yeah, okay, it's dead. I'm not gonna lie to you, that's dead. If you can't even contact support, it doesn't even look like they have anyone on the back end hired to continue keeping up this game. It just looks like they maybe have some servers running in the middle of Nevada or something to keep people playing, and they have no website. They're not even paying to have a website up for contact or support. No one's posting about it. The main developers, the main brand faces, Lazarbeam and Fresh, have just completely abandoned the project. So yeah, I mean, I would say it's a pretty dead project, which is a shame, because I think when you're a creator, like, creative products get a bad rap in general, okay? And I don't think this is one of them where you can put this in like a bad tier. But having said that, it's just not a success. And every time a product from a creator flops, or it's a scam, or people feel like slighted by it, that just leaves a bitter taste in their mouth for sometimes, when actually the product is really good and they just get hate for no reason, simply because it's a creator making it. So I definitely get that. I think that's kind of bad for everyone else. But then again, I'm currently making an argument for why people should be upset for the creators with millions of views and millions of subscribers making too much money. So, you really shouldn't be sad for them. It's not a big deal. But the game itself actually looks all right. I don't know if I would have played it. I don't play too many games. I like story games, really, to be honest. I like playing story games myself. My aim's not amazing, so when I hop on those like live service games, I'm just outclassed all the time. So I'll have fun if it's with my friends. If I'm with my friends, I'll play them for sure. Like, it's good, it's fun. But am I going to be gaming it by myself? No. I'd rather play like Red Dead Redemption or Ghost of Tsushima or something else like story-based. So I'm into that kind of scene. I think there could have been a market if they had initially made the release better. The early release, I mean, you saw on the graph, it spiked up like crazy. So if they just polished the game up a little bit more before they released it, I reckon it could have been a banger. But, was it ever going to be #1 on Steam for months? No, it's not that groundbreaking. But would it have probably survived and been like a decent underlying game that people go back to every so often? Yeah, I reckon it would have. But that's just my opinion. You can let me know what you think in the comments.
World Boss has the potential to make a comeback or not, I'll say it once and I'll keep saying it. World Boss is a fundamentally good game with good mechanics, good gameplay, but people are just not interested in playing it on a dark and lonely corner of the Steam library. I'm sure that when the game released and the developers saw that they only managed to pull in about 1,000 players, despite their promo videos getting millions of views, Lazarbeam and Fresh and Playside Studios knew that this just wasn't gonna go anywhere and they just abandoned it shortly after. But that's just the nature of live service games at the end of the day. If you look at the Steam charts for like 99% of all live service games, they usually have this huge spike of players on release where everybody's excited to play the new flavor of the week. That's when you're gonna have the most amount of people playing your game and when you're most likely gonna make the most amount of money. So you gotta make sure you make that peak as big as possible because that's gonna pay the development costs for all future updates of the game. World Boss, on the other hand, had a miserable spike on release and there really was no point in continuing to develop the game, since it's a lot easier to make a brand new live service game from scratch and hope that that one pops off versus trying to revive a dying live service game. So this isn't really a problem specific to World Boss itself. If you take the time to browse through Steam, you can find a bunch of abandoned online multiplayer games that are practically unplayable because they can't even get enough players to start a single match. World Boss was just a high-profile case since we saw two massive YouTubers with tens of millions of subscribers drop a brand new game just for it to flop immediately. At least World Boss at the end of the day lets you play against bots, so it has that going for it, but apart from just waiting to be put out of its misery, World Boss really has nothing left.
Yeah, I mean, that's not exactly like a saving grace, to be honest, buddy. Oh, it lets you play with bots. Amazing. Yay, 10 stars. Well done. No, that's not amazing. I'm interested in the fact that he pointed out so many other examples of where this happened. I don't really, as I say, I don't really play those types of games, so I didn't really think about that. But he brought up a good few examples of live service games that just simply didn't make it. So, you know, that's definitely interesting. Definitely something to consider if you're ever thinking about developing a game in that space. It seems to be very much the case that like the top 1% have all the players and then everyone else just gets the remnant of whoever decided to visit the dark corner of Steam that day. So yeah, is it something I'm ever going to be interested in doing? No, not really. I can appreciate that they tried. I think they did do it with good intentions. Did the fact that they had microtransaction as the only things polished and ready for release on the release day, did that sting? Yes, I can actually see why that hurts. You know, especially if you're sinking a lot of time into it. Again, I don't know if it's paid, but if it's paid and the only thing good is microtransactions, that stings even more. But I don't think it was. I think it was a free model, but I don't know. Other than that, yeah, it's kind of a shame that it passed away and seems to be a bit of a dead game. But I mean, that's just the way the world works. If a game is not good, the game won't be played. So there you go. That's why normally the hype is sometimes real, you know, for sure. That's why you should listen to recommendations when your friends say hop on. You kind of need to hop on because there's probably a good game. So go ahead, do it. Don't miss out. But anyway, thank you very much for watching this video. Thank you for joining me. And, you know, if you enjoyed me just yapping away to you a little bit for maybe 15 minutes or however long this video is, then please feel free to watch my last video, okay? It was all about the NFL. It was all about American football and why people love it so much and the difference and the things I notice when I'm watching it as a European. We go through a video, we kind of analyze it. We talk a lot about the advertisement because that's something that really struck me and the kind of the scenes behind that. So it's very kind of in-depth, a little bit interesting to see how that's progressed over time. A little bit of a history video, why not? A little change of pace. But yeah, seriously, go and watch it. It was really good fun. I enjoyed reacting to it and giving my bit. So thank you very much and hopefully I'll see you soon. Have a good day.